Thank you so much for persisting throughout the day. I know it's been a very, very technical day of discussions. We have had, kudos to Rick. He has been sitting since morning and listening to all the discussions. Yeah, thank you. I think we have Shubham, who has been listening since the first panel. Shubham was the speaker in the first panel. Congratulations on the book, by the way. You have very recently launched the Martech Playbook. It's an amazing read. Um ROI. I think it's one of the topics which marketers have always faced an issue with, and they've been asked questions from the leadership कि आप ये कर तो रहे हो पर इसका result क्या है, right? How many marketers in the house right now? With a raise of hands. Great. So this question comes in the mind of every marketer. You are taking budgets from us. Where are you using those budgets? And how is it coming back to you or profiting the company? So that's my first question. Very easy, very simple. In the age of intelligence, how easy has it become for you to face the leadership and tell them, sir, ROI ye hai?
Not easy for sure, right? So AI is more complicated because the overall, right, you have now one more channel to track, which is your chatbot through which you are generating good amount of conversations and then overall. But like in short, right, so we have moved more from channel level ROI to user level and trip level, so to say, matrices. And hence, right, so that is translating to overall share of wallet, and hence some of the good-looking dashboards are getting consumed by top leadership, and then we are able to see, right, so how the marketing dollars are resulting into how many trips cross-sell, and then the overall health of the system itself. So which is not to, like, all the traditional matrices are still there, which is LTV, which also helps you gain. But at the end of the day, right, so the business numbers, right, so what you contribute to from all the dollars which you have spent onto various channels across is which everybody wants to see. In the age of AI, there are things which we use to write a lot of SQL, etc. But with natural language to SQL generation, right, some of the dashboarding has become little easier. But as I said earlier, right, now people want to see a lot more cuts, and hence the nuances are still there, which you need to keep on bringing. But as I said in the starting, right, so moving away from just looking at channel level ROI, which earlier used to be, right, which is saying, okay, here is a Google spend and here is what the performance marketing has yielded to, moving to one customer view, etc., across journeys, trip level, has helped us overall. Yeah.
Okay. But I believe marketers are now more accountable, especially now that we have data sets to actually take out, ROIs. Rick, you are also in the ICICI leadership team, apart from heading the MarTech vertical. What are your thoughts on this?
No, so I think banking is one of the industries where the value builds over time. So for example, if some customer comes to a website and he or she sees a home loan, it's not that tomorrow he or she is going to take the home loan. And what we in ICICI Bank particular, we believe that the relationship builds over time. So essentially the entire MarTech, so I am part of a data science team, so MarTech is one of the vertical which I handle among other responsibilities. So what we truly believe that MarTech and digital is a force multiplier. So wherein, and these points some of the speakers have already mentioned. So we are using that to remove the friction. So of course the ROI matrix is there, so basically the A/B testing, the control group lift, so what we have been talking about. But we truly believe that we do not value the quick gains, but the long tail. So essentially that is how we track it. So how the customer 360 is happening, and typically like Ravi mentioned at the beginning also, so banking works in a phygital manner. So from that perspective, we are collecting all the signals from various sources. It is the failed transactions that also gives us insights, right? So that is very important. So if a customer is already irate, so definitely I am not going to pitch him a cross-sell product, right? Rather a service product I am going to do. So those are the kind of models which we have. The data science team, they create the model such that what is the need of the customer. So we have two verticals in place. One is of course the customer in center, and then of course our relationship team. So that is how we typically address that in our organization and in our line of business.
So failed conversions also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dr. Bajaj.
See, again, like he was mentioning, that it's not about converting tomorrow for home loan. In our case, we all see as healthcare brands, you look at something that is an immediate need, but that's only 25% of entire healthcare dollars that are spent. 75% is still planned. Plus, I'm not going to do that, something very similar to saying that tomorrow morning I'm going to go Narayana Health. That's not how a user think.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning I'm going to buy an iPhone. That's how a user think. So you are under so much of stress while you are making a transaction or giving your money to a healthcare organization. But coming back to the point in terms of course, the signals not only people coming to your platform and reading about certain aspects of, let's say, diseases, to giving us signals from what is happening in right now Kolkata as a disease burden will be very, very different to what's happening in Delhi as a disease burden. So if you are able to map those events, create those customer journeys in terms of communications for information, not scaring, and that is where scale with AI at personalization can help you reach out to all 15 million of my users and telling them this is what is supposed to happen in next 3 months, please take care. So that is how we are looking at driving value prop for us.
Dr. Goyal, you are a data scientist, and you have been in the scene since a long time. I mean, more than 2-3 decades, right? How have you seen the age of intelligence, shape how data comes in, how data is processed, especially at Yatra? And you can also talk about Make My Trip if you want.
Sure. I have been in this area of data analytics, data sciences since late 90s. That's when data warehousing technology was introduced in the world for the first time. And since then, I have stayed in this area, have worked in multiple domains, and have seen almost all the facets of data sciences. That includes data engineering, data modeling, data analytics, business intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and now most recently like Gen AI and LLM. One thing that's common across everything here is basically data. Everything is centered around data. Data need not be numbers. It could be, like text. It could be video images. Earlier, it started with data because everything had to be structured. But now when it comes to Gen AI and all that, the data could be simply textual, it could be a binary file and like all that. So now what I've seen is that, data was always there earlier, but in 1997, 1 terabyte would cost $300,000. Now 1 terabyte costs $30, $40. Pentium was not even there. Now you have got H100 CPUs, which have got 80 billion transistors. So all this processing and all this is improved. Because of that, you are able to collect a lot more data. So in travel, what do? We collect all the web clicks, so that actually helps us gauge the interest of a customer. If I go to a hotel, I click on a hotel, I look at the room, am I looking at the breakfast option? Am I looking at the cancellation policy? Did I go to the review page? That shows me the level of interest. Then did I book the hotel? Right, so all the searches I collect. If that customer has contacted us through email, through voice, do I have that information? Am I able to collect the sentiment of that person, over Facebook or Instagram, something like that? If I want to do hyper personalization, do I know what kind of music the person likes, And so basically you create a persona, right? And then you create cohorts and you create personas for the cohorts. And that way, if you can somehow impact a business matrix, that helps. There's something called look to book ratio in the travel industry, which says how many of the searches have actually converted to bookings. Can I do that? Can I increase that even by 0.25%, right? So all this is where the industry has moved. Algorithms are already there. The neural network algorithm was introduced in 1950. but hardware was not there. Now what we are doing is we are able to apply algorithms like hierarchical recurrent neural network, which also Amazon uses. They're like collaborative filtering. What that will do is when you search for a hotel, it will show the hotels exactly the ones you want, as if the system has read your mind, right? If you enter a hotel and if I know your preferences, I can play Sinatra music, as soon as you open the door. I mean, the fragrance will be according to your liking. You would have rose petals or you may have lilies on the bed, All this is hyper personalization, but you have that data. That is the thing. As a B2C customer, there is sparsity of data, right? As a B2B customer who's a captive customer who has made repeated bookings, you know what the customer likes. Also, all that is there. So I have seen the journey from, from MIS, from doing slicing and dicing of data, and now doing a super hyper personalization.
Amazing, amazing. I think we can have a master class on data with Dr. Goel someday. I think this is one of the most experienced panels that we have today. So we haven't had questions. A lot of marketers are here. Instead of me asking questions, do you have any questions before I go? To anybody? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So journey level, customer journey
So
level.
the
is
question,
something-
let me, because for the audience's
Oh, yeah,
sake.
please.
Yeah, so the question is that has there been a change in incremental value from a non-AI era to an AI era?
So two instances that I can call out. One is our PRM, which is patient relationship management, which is our voice, where we have introduced as a co-pilot place for our agents who are picking up the calls. So it's a support. It's not directly being a voice, AI voice to be taking care of your calls. So that I'm seeing a 16% earlier conversion to now 43%. On customer journeys, which of course at Marketing Cloud, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, you were running at 22% conversions. You have gone past 55. Because it's one scale, better targeting, basically, and your better personalization of creatives. And I'm able to churn out much, much faster. That's it.
Have you let go of people?
No, that's not part of the plan as well. So the first thing we did, we trained our entire middle management. The first thing they did 12 weeks training to figure out how it can add value into what is that they are doing in the marketing team, which can be added over with the top of AI. Now they themselves are becoming the masters, and they are every day teaching me.
Yeah. So just to add, right? So the value is increased, right? So in twofold, right? So one, you have increased the amount of personalization you were able to do earlier to what you are, which is impacting the overall conversions. And I would not say just like so conversions, right? So one of the other things which we have started looking at is more granular intents. Earlier, if you used to just look at it more from funnel analytics, you were just looking at like so listing, review, detail, and thank you pages, etc. But now you have very granular understanding of the data, and hence, right? So you are looking at more granular intents and intent level reporting itself, right? And hence we are saying, right? So if you compare it to, and we keep on running those experiments now also, right? So without Myra Assist, with Assist, etc. Right? So we are seeing, right? So with Myra Assist, good amount of incremental conversion uplift is there, right? The second part is, right, so there is good amount of operational efficiencies at the back you are able to do across the board, including the call center part of it. Because, for example, from a human agent used to take some notes, do the call tagging, etc. All those things are now automated, right? So you have the transcription, etc. So you were able to reduce some bit of, right, so like the outsourced cost per se, right, the dollar cost has significantly reduced over there. The second is, right, so on the agentic marketing part of it, right, so earlier you used to create a campaign brief, give it to a content copywriter, etc., and saying, okay, for this campaign, here are the notification, email, and different copies which you need to create. Now you are able to like automate using AI. And then the human in the loop is able to now say, okay, these are verified approval flows, etc. So you are able to reduce the TAT. So for example, a 3-hour journey between back and forth between you humans have reduced to 15 minutes per se. So that has given operational efficiencies also. The other part is, right, so the amount of, right, so, and I was discussing the same with Dr. Shakti Goyal as well earlier, right, which is, right, so using Adobe Firefly APIs, etc., right, so you have a Photoshop template, you are able to now do the generative AI to every layer, and hence, right, so you are able to now use a lot of personalization with creatives, which typically a human would take a lot of time, right, creating those copies, etc. So definitely there is good amount of operational efficiencies across many areas where we have seen the impact.
Any other question? Okay. Yeah,
To add to that, I can give you some context on a project or on a product that we developed at Yatra. It's an expense management solution. So like when the corporate travelers, the employees travel, they have to submit receipts. Those receipts have been looked at, analyzed, So now let's say we have got 100 people at 4 lakhs per year of salary, just analyzing receipts. That's 4 crores, right? Now, using the vision capabilities of LLMs, right, I can analyze receipts in any of the 100+ languages. And it will give me far more information in detail than a regular OCR solution. And the cost is now cut down from 4 crores, I don't know how much I'll pay for LLM, probably a few thousand rupees, probably a lakh, right? That is where things like come in handy. And also like Piyush mentioned, same thing can go for marketing, right? You have to run a marketing campaign, you design a campaign, creatives will be there for you, and then through APIs, you can like load those campaigns on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, use APIs to download the information, and then use LLMs to analyze that information. All that can be done without any human involvement. So let's just imagine the saving in cost there.
There's one place where human involvement is needed. If somebody sends you an Indigo receipt because they never flew,
Right,
that receipt doesn't exist.
that is so true here. See, actually, I can relate that to in some way. I mean, when I started working data warehousing, 80% of the projects would fail because they were sponsored by IT and there was no business involvement. But who's the user? It's the business, right? So, I mean, basically, in an AI project, there are 5 things that are involved, and I call them B dots, B-D-O-T-S. The business involvement has to be there, data has to be there, operations team, the right technology has to be available, and the skill set. If you have all these 5, along with the strong use case, I don't see why a project will fail. I mean, just look at like what like Make My Trip is doing. I was having a discussion with Piyush. This Myra AI is everywhere, right? You can do any kind of search, ask any kind of question, and that has helped Make My Trip, right? So I'm like, if you have the right use case, if you're doing it the right way, then I don't see why.
Yeah, and Myra is not just a bot. I mean, a lot of companies are using chat bots, but not intelligent bots. Myra is a perfect example of an intelligent bot. But can you give us some insights which people might not know? Because you gather a lot of data, especially through Myra and people coming. Some very interesting insights which audience may not know of. I know I'm drifting away from the topic, but
yeah, no, absolutely. So twofold, right? So one, there is a shift in consumer behavior which we are seeing, and the second is, right, so especially, right, so the context part of it, right? So let me first cover the customer behavior part of it, which we are seeing, right? So earlier it was a typical funnel, right? So people fill in some forms and saying I want to go from A to B, so and so date, etc. You see the listing, etc. and responses, right? The behavior shifting is now people are able to express, right, why they are traveling, where they are traveling, etc. with more verbatim, right? And which is helping us understand the intent better, which was not the case earlier, right? For similar set of users, right, I have good amount of proxy signals, as Dr. Shakti was earlier saying, right? If a user is browsing an image of breakfast, buffet, etc., we understand, okay, he is interested into, he may be interested into those things, right? And you would use those proxy signals to improve the overall personalization. But here, right, there are two signals which are coming in. One, the explicit signals, and then the implicit signals which you are driving from the conversation itself. So explicitly, a user is able to now tell you a lot more about his or her preferences, which you were not able to gather and then give a better response back to the user itself. And the second is, right, so user are also using their local languages, right, Hindi, English, all kind of words. So the change in behavior is, right, so people are opting for voice, right, which is again a consumer behavior change in saying, okay, rather than me explaining by typing, right, better to explain ki meko how to form a trip, right. So better nuanced pieces are coming in through voice, right. Because if you ask Indians to just type in and explain their problems, I'm sure, right, in healthcare also that
Absolutely,
is true.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
so
even kids, my kids, they don't type. They don't know what typing is.
yeah.
Absolutely no.
Yeah. So voice is getting a bigger piece. The second is like, so geography wise, we are seeing very different behavior of the customers very differently when they are interacting to Myra, either through voice or through typing and etc. So, and then like sometimes people are saying very different things. Koi Myra ko bhaiya bol raha hai, koi hi, hello, etc., didi, etc. All those nuances, the emotion is getting very differently captured.
What is
right?
the best proposal Myra has got?
So, so and hence, right, so, and with that, right, the frustration level, right, so the bigger problem is, right, so the token consumption which you are paying to for large language model, which you should be aware of. Because, right, so when scaling things, right, and I was sharing the same learnings with Dr. Shakti in saying, okay, right, so the problem we had was, right, so we were doing good amount of evaluation for every conversation we had, right, which with Indigo fiasco, right, so the number of conversation also exploded like how, right, people were very anxious and they were utilizing Myra to talk to whatever channel they had, right, they were, where is my refund, what is going to happen, reschedule is going to happen, etc. Myra was at rescue, right, you can't scale like by humans deploying, etc. So we saw, right, good, like in a bad situation, but good usage of the same. But you need to be cognizant while deploying these solutions, right? You need to be cognizant of the cost consumption on both the sides. So we had to do sampling, etc. at the back to do, right, the evaluation.
Piyush, I'm so sorry. We're paucity on time, and I want other panelists to jump in as well. Rick, I have a kind of a unique question for you. What has been the biggest aha moment for you recently, where a data-driven insight proved or disproved something your marketing team assumed for many years?
No, so typically I would answer it like this. So essentially in our banking, and in fact this is true for any other field also. So we often talk about correlation versus causation. So typically what happens if a customer, say if I take the digital channel, so if he is coming to my mobile or web, and if the customer is doing some action, I construe something on her behalf, right? So that may not be the causation, right? So essentially from that perspective, what we have done, so it is not a recent thing, so basically in a recent past, if I may say so. So what we have done, so we have trained our models to ensure that we have a time series view. So essentially we do not, so the signal to noise ratio as we talk about, so we ensure that the signals are multifaceted. This is not restricted to only one narrow lens, because a very colloquial saying goes that if you beat a data, it will tell the truth what you want to hear. So I think from that perspective, and this is also a thought which I'm leaving to all the audience also, so we have to be very, very sure about the correlation versus causation. So from that perspective, any click, any impressions which we are getting, we do not immediately jump into that this product or this journey is working. So we see it from a different aspect. So basically if a usage journey we have done, so if it is a frictionless, so then we observe that how the performance of the product is happening in the near future. So that is a thing in a short, if I can talk about. I think that's how we
Dr. Bajaj, do you talk about ROI in your latest book very briefly?
Yes, one of the KPI metric, definitely, but ROI channel-wise, like we pointed out while we were having the conversation also, is something that I refrain from using even with my team as well. Those ROIs work in totality. If somebody can build the sense on the black box, which is whatever I'm spending onto the mediums which are not tracked, putting it all together, that is the right metric, otherwise only NPS.
Wonderful. One last set of questions. I know the time is up. Favorite travel destination, Piyush?
मुझसे सर्जरी पूछोगे
Kashmir itself.
Kashmir. Okay. Primary bank account and not ICICI.
No, it's ICICI only.
No, primary. उसके बाद वाला.
State Bank of India.
Huh?
State Bank of India.
Okay.
I think everyone will have SBI.
Safe,
so it is
safe.
a banker to every Indian.
Safe. If not Narayana Health, God forbid, which hospital would you go to?
the nearest to my home.
Which is BLK.
It's Manipal there.
Which is better, Yatra or Make My Trip?
Well, we have got, both are good. Make My Trip in B2C space, Yatra in the corporate travel space.
Okay. Thank you so much, panelists, for giving us your time. It was an amazing session.